Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today on the Stellar Highway. Today we'll talk about the Terrifics. This is the first issue in the series. This is part of the New Age of Heroes line, which is something I jumped into because, I heard this was Marvel, not Marvel, and always been a Marvel guy. And thought this would be a great excuse to check out some DC stuff. Don't know a whole lot about DC beyond the basics. Probably know a little more than the average guy in the street, but not much. So right away, this has like a nice Fantastic Four vibe. I think that's obvious and not really a secret to anybody, including the creative team. They know what they're going for here. But man, I also love this cover. I love this art. I know nothing about these characters, though. I feel like I used to watch Plastic Man on TV, like in the 70s, but it's kind of fuzzy. I was very little. But we're just introduced to this kind of high-tech facility. There's this sort of primate type guy. He's munching on a moth that he's caught. But there's sort of this like sphere kind of descending towards him. Turns out is this guy named Mr. Terrific. Not my favorite character name ever. A lot of DC names are kind of a miss for me, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah, this guy is basically Mr. Terrific. He's here to kind of reclaim or repossess some technology that this guy's employer has come to own. So it sounds like Mr. Terrific was gone for a long time, and a lot of his assets and his work and research was like sold off or something like that. And this guy, his name is Mr. Stagg, has kind of bought Mr. Terrific's technology. This is the guy here. This is Mr. Stagg or Dr. Stagg and his daughter Sapphire. So basically, Mr. Terrific comes in at just the right time. They're basically fuddling with this like dark multiverse type energy. Which I guess this New Age of Heroes kind of piggybacks off the this big DC event called Dark Knight Metal, where they kind of revealed like a dark multiverse. So again, I didn't read it, can't claim to know a lot about it, but basically this Mr. Stagg guy is kind of toying with really dangerous stuff. And he's trying to use this guy Metamorpho as like a conduit or basically send him in there. It's not quite clear to me, but Metamorpho always looked like a villain to me, but apparently he's a good guy. So, hey, it's a nice surprise. So basically, this Mr. Terrific guy, he's, definitely super scientist type dude. He sends his secret weapon into play. And, if you're a kid, when I was a kid, this is a Plastic Man egg. So basically he's using a Plastic Man, to help him free Metamorpho from this dark energy because he's kind of like gone berserk. They can't shut the portal down. And then there's some kind of reaction here. And Terrific, Plastic Man, and Metamorpho are kind of thrown into this dark multiverse. We'll skip a few pages here. But there's kind of some fun banter. Metamorpho is definitely kind of playing the role of the Thing, and Plastic Man's definitely kind of playing the role of Johnny Storm, Human Torch. And I like that they went all in with Plastic Man. He's kind of a doofy type character, but they just go all in with him and they just make it really fun and they just commit to the bit. I like it. I was kind of worried about him coming in. I didn't want like a super hammy, super try hard comedy guy. But yeah, they seem to be pretty adept at handling him. I think this is the writer's Jeff Lemire, which I think I kind of like Jeff Lemire anyways. So, but basically in the dark multiverse, they find themselves like they've basically landed in the corpse of this giant entity. This is a very cool double page spread here. I like this a lot. But yeah, it is kind of ruined by Plastic Man's doofy head just shooting out. But so they find themselves in the body of this thing, and then just bang, suddenly there's space crabs everywhere. I guess they were infesting the body. there's no real setup or explanation. It just goes from, it's a smash cut. I hate those. It's a smash cut from this to suddenly swarmed by insects. So there's just like no setup. But yeah, the insects are called off by this mysterious, ghostly girl. Great art here. I like this design. I like how simple it is. She's very feminine looking. But yeah, this is basically they introduce, they're introduced to this girl. I think her name is Lina. It's kind of an alien name, hard to pronounce. I think her team name is something like Phantom Girl, but I don't believe they've used it at this point. But, she confesses, she says that she's crash landed here. She was separated from her parents, and she basically grew up on this thing, which is crazy. That's how she knew how to call off the spiders, the space crabs. But yeah, she says, she didn't activate it. She didn't activate the distress signal that they've encountered. Because as soon as they came into the multiverse, they caught this distress signal, so they couldn't just go right back out. So they headed towards it. It was in the body of this thing. They find the antenna that's broadcasting the signal, and the message is from Tom Strong. Okay, I had to look this guy up. I don't know what he was all about, but I guess he's like an old-timey, classic-styled hero from a book that was it was a DC book, but existed outside the DC universe proper. So this is a big deal, apparently, because he's kind of crossing over into the DC proper universe. So yeah, I did read up a little bit on Tom Strong. His stuff sounds interesting. Don't know if I'll check that out. Maybe if this storyline pans out and really hooks me, I'll go and read some Tom Strong, but it definitely seems cool. But yeah, he's kind of like the MacGuffin or something that drives this quest. This is the second issue, which again, great cover. I like what they're doing here. Not terribly different from the previous cover. It's kind of a group shot there, but basically in this issue, they've gotten the message from Tom Strong. It's very mysterious. They decide that the planet, well, not really the planet, but the being that they've crash landed on is coming back to life. You get buff Plastic Man. But basically everybody gets involved in removing the antenna from this device, which causes this sort of energy discharge here, which they're all caught in. And it looks like it's caused everybody to, freak out. They're kind of winded from this, but they don't have any time to figure out what happened because it is, in fact, coming back to life. Metamorpho socks it. They try to escape into the portal. Now that they've gone through the portal, suddenly Dr. Stagg is able to close it conveniently. And Lina, she is able to change from her ghost form back to her tangible form. But whatever she touches while tangible, she destroys. So she's kind of stuck, and she's relieved because she can finally become tangible again, but immediately finds out there's a drawback. So she's stuck as a ghost, basically. Mr. Terrific says he'll help her, but he can't do it here. He's going to go back to his lab. So he decides to take off. He's kind of totally dismissive of everybody. He's a pretty huge jerk. They don't portray him as very likable, but he soon finds out that he can't get more than a mile away from these guys. They're bound by some kind of energy, presumably by the antenna pulling free scene earlier that kind of discharged that energy. But basically, they are bound together. And that segues into the third book, another triple review here. So yeah, this book is basically, the first two are very fun and interesting. This one's a little more like a let's tour our superhero base, but they don't actually tour the base. It's kind of glossed over real quickly, but basically they can't be more than a mile from each other, roughly. So they're kind of stuck together, and since this Stagg, Dr. Stagg guy has a lot of Mr. Terrific's tech already. They decide to kind of make their base of operations, and Metamorpho and Sapphire have some boyfriend-girlfriend relationship stuff to figure out. But there's this kind of fun reoccurring bit here where Dr. Stagg tells his henchman Java to clean up the messes because they've crashed the little Terrific sphere. But then we kind of cut away to this Midwestern town where this sort of goo guy is assimilating people, and he looks like Metamorpho. This is very confusing, especially me not knowing these characters very well. You know, I is there two Metamorphos, or is the other guy like a piece of Metamorpho? I don't know what's happening here, but it literally tells us in this text box below here that this just is for later. So like, why even confuse the reader? Why even jump to that? It's just basically completely unnecessary. One of my major gripes with the book is that that scene is in there because they literally just say, don't worry about this now, we'll come back to this. So basically we're treated to this scene. It's a pretty long scene of Metamorpho and Sapphire kind of making up, and he kind of blows it, and it's sort of left in a kind of weakened state of their relationship. So basically she's Dr. Stagg's daughter apparently, and he always gets pulled into the Dr. Stagg's schemes, which kind of makes him the bad guy, and he's, you know, most definitely a good guy. But in this scene, they proceed to make Mr. Terrific even less likable. She's kind of pleading with, Lena is pleading with Mr. Terrific to kind of work on her, you know, tangibility problem and stuff, and he just blows her off. But he's not completely heartless, you know, he's just kind of wrapped up in the mystery of Tom Strong and the antenna. But all of that is interrupted when this device arrives, and I guess this is something that we've seen before in DC Comics. It's a first for me. This is the War Wheel, where, you know, a completely unnecessary holy War Wheel Batman. So basically they have a quick scrap with this where Mr. Terrific effectively does nothing. It's this Mr. Terrific thing is not working for me here. I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be or not, but they do kind of like a really goofy Plastic Man Metamorpho combo move to knock it off balance. And Linya is able to destroy it by turning tangible. After the fight, Plastic Man pitches his team name, which they immediately reject. And yeah, I don't want to show too much more, but basically the clean this up gag comes back, and the team kind of settles in into their new headquarters. And Mr. Stagg definitely is responsible for the War Wheel showing up. So they kind of have a landlord that's trying to kill them, which is kind of fun. I mean, I kind of like that as an idea. It's like, you know, they're kind of like never safe in that way, and they need Stagg, and he needs to exploit them. I don't know. Stagg seems like maybe he's a character that's been around and established, but I sure don't know him. But he just comes across as like evil scientist corporate guy. So, but yeah, really, I like this book. It's not really like changing my life or anything. It looks great. It's fun to read. But there are a few things that drag it down. It's hard to recommend for the long haul. But I say check it out, and if this does it for you, if you really like this, if you're on board with these characters, you know, you're probably going to continue to enjoy it. I mean, the writing is pretty good, and yeah, I find it inoffensive, which is not very high praise, but I like it. I mean, the Tom Strong mystery, the opening issue really sold me, and it kind of went downhill, but ever so slightly in the next 2 issues. Still, don't really regret buying them. Just not sure if I'm going to be back for issue 3. Kind of depends on, what they do with the characters. I mean, it would be a good move to make Mr. Terrific more likable, because, I mean, in a team of 4, I guess, I don't know. It's just hard to believe that there's someone so unlikable out of 4 people. But basically, if you're already a DC fan and you know some of these characters, and you're probably happy to see them get their own book or get on a team, because as far as I know, none of these guys have a solo book. But anyways, that was the Terrifics. Who is your favorite Terrific? Let me know in the comments below. If you're familiar with these guys and you want to fill me in on some of the backstory, feel free to drop a comment and I will read those. And like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell. I hope to crank out more videos soon. And thanks for joining me on the Stellar Highway.